Hello and welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. Great to have you here. Today we're going to take a look at this watch, a Casio Edifice. It's an Edifice that blew me away, to be fair. I'd had a Casio Edifice before. I think I mentioned this in the unboxing video, which I'll put the link up to. And I'll put the other one up on screen. And I ended up sending it back because I just wasn't really happy with it. And then I saw this one and I bought it and I was so impressed with this watch. So this is the EFS-S560DB. Yeah, I think that's right. One AVUEF. There we go. A mouthful, but I'm sure you'll remember that. I'll put that up by now on a caption and in the description. Now, I picked this up for less than £100 from a UK jewellers called H. Samuel. I'll put a link to that. Now, this watch is one of three in the series, I believe. All three have the same face. We have this particular one, which is the black one. And then if I just move that to the side, there's also a black and red PVD version. And then a steel version, which has no numbers on the bezel. So that's the three. I'll put links to all three where I can find them in the description. Again, got this just under £100, but they do seem to change in price. So shop around, see what you get, and we'll take a look what you get for that money. Now, with the dimensions of this watch, I did find a few different sort of specifications for it online, but I'll tell you what I found. So diameter is 42mm, but if you include the shoulder just on the left here and out to the crown, that goes out to 45.4. So it's quite a large watch. Now, lug to lug wise, I have it at 45.4 lug to lug. However, with this non-articulated male link here, that actually pushes the watch out to 50.2. So it does sit a little large on the wrist. So you just need to bear that in mind if you've got a smaller wrist. I can get away with that with an 8-inch wrist, but some other people might make it sit proud. Thickness is really slender at only 9.9mm, and that's really slender. It's one of its key points. I love that because it's not a cuff catcher at all. And weight wise, we're 141 grams, so it is a little hefty, but that all comes from the top of the watch. The strap feels light to me, but 141, it's not particularly heavy, but it has got some heft to it. So build wise, we've got a full stainless steel build. It's a really nice finish on that stainless steel as well. We've got this brushed effect on most faces of the body of the watch, which follows down onto the bracelet. Then just on this edge, we've got a really nice polished effect just to set off that matte effect. And it looks really good. They really gave some thought to the way that they were going to do this. Now the bezel on this particular version is this matte black. If you look really close, you can see some sort of brushing effect in it, which kind of follows through onto the dial, which we'll come to in a second. Crown-wise, we've got the Casio Edifice logo on there, and then two pretty standard pushers. Again, you can just see on that matte, and then that polish just on that top edge, and it really sets it off really nicely. It's a very sort of modern effect they've given it with the matte dial and matte bezel. Crystal, I think you spotted it already on just down there on that bottom sub-dial, sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. You can probably just pick that up with the blue tinge on it as well. Really good. So that's going to give you lots of resistance to scratches, and it makes the watch really easy to read with the anti-reflective coating on it as well. Now, dial-wise, we've got a beautiful matte black effect dial, which is built up in several layers. You can see the majority of it, of the main bulk of the dial, is this black matte, and it's sort of brushed effect. On the right, we've got, just at the 3 o'clock, we've got Edifice Casio, solar powered, so we know it's solar powered. Indices are this sort of gunmetal grey, applied, sit nice and proud of that back dial, and then in that back dial, we've got the 3 sub dials, which are inset, and they're edged in that nice gunmetal grey edging round it. At the top, we've got the seconds hand for the chronograph. Then at 6 o'clock, we have the minutes hand for the chronograph, which, with the way that's set from 0 to 30, this watch can do to 29 minutes and 59 seconds. But there is a lap time in there for first and second place as well. I'll show you the chrono in a second. And then on that 6 o'clock dial, you can also see an indicator of the charge level, low, medium and high. Now the charge level on this, if it's full, will do 6 months apparently. And I do really like this feature that you're able to see the charge level. I do wish others would do that. I know Citizen do it on a couple of their watches, but not all of their eco drives. So I really wish they'd bring that across. And then at the 9 o'clock, we've got the ticking seconds in a sub dial as well. Again, edging this sort of gunmetal, sort of silver edging. It really sets it off really nicely. If we come out a little bit, as I say, go past the indices onto the chapter ring with just white markings, and then onto the bezel, black matte. That sort of brushed effect that comes across from the dial onto it with minute markers on it, and it looks really good against that matte body. It really adds quite a modern twist to it. I just think it really looks stunning when it's just catching the light. Now with the chronograph, it's pretty standard. We go with the top one to get the seconds, so the sub dial at the 12 is now ticking. And then when we stop it, you'll notice that the hand at the 6 has now gone to the 0 minutes. We'll stop it there, press to reset. Oh, didn't press it hard enough. There we go. And if I press that again, the hand at the 6 dial will pop back to show the charge level. So it's pretty straightforward, but it's got great functionality as well. One thing I did forget to mention was the hands. They are this sword style hand with LUME filled in the middle. Pop that out. There we go, you can probably see that a little better. Very nice, matches that sort of modern aesthetic really well. LUME isn't great. I don't think Casio are really known for their LUME. It just about passes my 3 AM test. You can just about read it at 3 o'clock. And then I forgot to mention the date window, which is black on this version, so it's colour matched, down at the 4 o'clock. I forgot to mention that. And I just think the levels in this dial really do make it look really special, especially with that matte brushed black effect. Caseback wise, just printed onto the back. It's got its model number at the top. Casio Edifice, sapphire crystal, solar powered. Serial number I think is underneath there. Yep, it's serial number. Water resistant 100 meters. It's pretty simple caseback. Obviously it looks like a push on caseback, but of course you wouldn't actually need to change any batteries or anything in this, so you wouldn't need to take that off. So I suppose it's just nice and simple and straightforward. Again, in this matte brushed effect, which follows through all of the watch. Now strap wise, I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier on, but actually where it meets the lug is 25.4 mil, which is a bit of an unusual size, but I guess you're not going to be swapping this out particularly. And then it drops down to a 20 mil when it gets to the clasp at the back. Matte brushed, and then you'll notice just on the edge of this articulated piece here is polished, so that follows through the aesthetic with the rest of the watch, and it just lightens that bracelet slightly and gives it another dimension. Again, they've really thought about the way that they're using the finishing on this watch. The only thing I would say is it's a solid single link bracelet. However, it does feel a little light. I don't know if that might have been with a bit more of a substantial bracelet, it might have felt better. Onto the clasp, pretty standard 3-fold clasp, pressed, double security pushers, Edifice on the back. You'll notice actually I've got a couple of scratches on this already, which is a bit of a shame, so that's a little bit disappointing. But I'd say the bracelet is the bit where the watch would be better with something slightly more substantial. Here it is on wrist. I think it looks really sleek and understated. Very nice. Only 9.9 mil thick, so not a cuff catcher. Great under a shirt if you were going out doing a business deal or something. I just think it would look fantastic for not a lot of money. I know there's lots of watches you can get that cost a lot more money, but I think this one's a really good looking watch for the price. It's not perfect by any means. I think the bracelet is a little bit lightweight for the rest of the watch. But I did take a link out of the bracelet as well, I forgot to mention that, and this is on my 8-inch wrist. Showing about the scratch on the clasp as well. Don't know quite how I did that, but it's a great watch. I struggle to find an awful lot wrong with it. Great price, solar as well. I'll put a link in the description as I mentioned. Now, if that's not your type of watch, this might be your type of watch. This is possibly a forerunner of the watch of the year, along with the Casio. This is the Steel Dive SD 1970, and I'll put a link to the review of that in the corner. Thanks to everybody who's watched, liked and subscribed recently, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.